You're not my daughter anymore!
The last thing my mother said to me, before she slammed the door, was, "You're not my daughter anymore." That was the night I slept on the street, with nowhere to go, and no one coming to save me. 10 years later, they showed up at my gate. Not to apologize, but to ask if they could move into my mansion. What they didn't know is that I never forgot what they did. And this time, I was the one holding the power. Before we get into this, I want to know, where are you watching from right now? Drop your city and what time it is there. I read every comment. How does a woman go from being abandoned by her own family to becoming someone they desperately need? Was it revenge? Was it survival? Or was this all part of a plan? The rain hit the pavement like it was trying to erase me. Cold. Sharp. Relentless. I remember sitting there, right on the edge of the curb, my back pressed against a streetlight that flickered like it was deciding whether I was worth seeing. I had one trash bag. That's all they gave me. 30 years of my life, reduced to a torn black bag filled with clothes I didn't even choose to pack. And behind me, that house. My house. Or at least, it used to be. The porch light was still on. Warm. Yellow. Inviting. Like nothing had happened. Like I hadn't just been thrown out of it. Like my own mother hadn't looked me in the eyes that once watched me take my first steps, and said, "Get out. And don't come back." I kept waiting. Waiting for the door to open again. Waiting for someone to run out and say this was all a mistake. Waiting for my father's voice. Waiting for my sister. Anyone. But the door never opened. And after a while, even the porch light went off. That was the moment it hit me. Not when they yelled. Not when they dragged my suitcase down the hallway. Not even when the door slammed behind me. No. It was when the light went off. That's when I understood. I didn't have a family anymore. 10 years later. The same people who left me in the street were standing at the gates of my mansion. Begging. But to understand how we got there, you have to go back to the version of me that still believed in them. Back to the version of me that thought family meant something. Back before everything broke. I wasn't always the woman sitting in the rain. I had a life. A simple one, sure, but it was mine. I worked a steady job at a medical billing office just outside of town. Nothing glamorous. But it paid the bills. Gave me structure. Gave me something to wake up for. Most evenings, I drove straight to my parents' house. Same house I grew up in. White siding. Blue shutters. Slight crack in the driveway my father always said he'd fix. I practically lived there. Not because I had to. Because I wanted to. Because I believed that's what a good daughter did. My mother, Eleanor, ran that house like a system. Everything had a place. Everything had a rule. And everything, somehow, was always my responsibility. Can you stop by the pharmacy? Can you pick up groceries? Your father needs help with the garage. Your sister has a headache, can you check on her? At first, it felt normal. Then it became expected. Then it became invisible. No thank you. No appreciation. Just assumption. But I didn't question it. Because I loved them. Because I thought that's what love looked like. My sister, Rachel, was different. Always had been. She was the kind of person people noticed when she walked into a room. Confident. Polished. Effortless. Everything I wasn't. Where I stayed, she moved. Where I gave, she took. And somehow, she was still the favorite. I saw it in the way my mother looked at her. The softness. The pride. The patience. Things I had to earn, but Rachel just received. If I'm being honest, I ignored the signs. The small ones. The ones that whisper before everything starts screaming. Like how decisions were made without me. How conversations stopped when I entered the room. How my sacrifices became jokes. Oh, she doesn't mind. She'll handle it. She always does. And I did. Every time. Until the day everything changed. It started with a phone call. The kind that makes your stomach drop before you even answer. My mother. Her voice was tight. Controlled. Your father collapsed. I don't remember the drive to the hospital. I don't remember parking. I don't remember walking in. All I remember is the smell. That sterile, cold, too clean smell that always means something is wrong. They said it was his heart. Severe. Complicated. Expensive. That word came up a lot. Expensive. Treatments. Procedures. Medication. All of it adding up faster than any of us could process. And that's when the shift happened. Not all at once. Slowly. Quietly. But unmistakably. Responsibility started landing on me. Paperwork. Appointments. Bills. Phone calls. Insurance fights. Long nights in waiting rooms. Longer nights at home trying to figure out how to keep everything from falling apart. Rachel. She visited. Took pictures. Posted them. Cried when people were watching. And then disappeared when things got hard. My mother. She leaned on me. Hard. Emotionally. Financially. Mentally. And I carried it. All of it. Because that's what I'd always done. Until one night. I overheard something I wasn't supposed to hear. I had come by late. Groceries in hand. Keys already in the door. And that's when I heard my name. Not spoken with love. Not spoken with concern. But, calculated. She won't say no. That was my mother. Then Rachel. Of course she won't. She never does. A pause. Then something that felt like a crack forming inside my chest. We just need her to cover the rest. Once the house is secured, it won't matter. I froze. Hand still on the door. Breath caught somewhere between disbelief and something much darker. Secured? Cover the rest? What were they talking about? I stepped inside quietly. Too quietly. And suddenly, the conversation stopped. Like someone had flipped a switch. They smiled. Too fast. Too rehearsed. Hey, Rachel said. You're early. But something had already shifted. Inside me. Something that wouldn't go back. I wish I could say I confronted them right then. I didn't. I told myself I misunderstood. That I was tired. Stressed. Overthinking. Because the truth was too painful to face. So I kept going. Kept helping. Kept giving. Kept sacrificing. Until the night they finally said it out loud. The three of us sat at the dining table. Papers spread out. Numbers circled. Voices tight. My mother leaned forward. Hands clasped like she was about to ask for something reasonable. Something small. We need you to take out a loan. Just like that. No hesitation. No build-up. Just, expectation. I stared at her. Waiting for the rest. For the part where she explained. Where she reassured. Where she acknowledged what she was asking. It never came. Rachel leaned back in her chair. Arms crossed. Watching me. Not hopeful. Not nervous. Certain. Certain I'd say yes. Because I always did. How much? I asked. My voice didn't sound like mine. My mother slid a paper toward me. I looked down. And felt the world tilt. It wasn't help. It wasn't temporary. It wasn't support. It was everything. Everything I had. Everything I could possibly have. That's not a loan, I said quietly. That's my life. Silence. Then my mother's face hardened. Not with guilt. Not with concern. With irritation. Don't be dramatic. Something inside me snapped. Not loudly. Not violently. But completely. I've already given you everything, I said. My time. My money. My energy. And we're your family, Rachel cut in. Like that explained everything. Like that justified everything. No, I said. For the first time. No. That word. Changed everything. The air shifted instantly. Heavy. Sharp. Dangerous. My mother stood up slowly. You're really going to do this? Now. When we need you. I stood too. Hands shaking. Heart pounding. I've been here. Every day. Every night. I've done everything I can. And it's not enough, she snapped. There it was. The truth. Raw. Unfiltered. Ugly. I looked at Rachel. Hoping, just once, she'd be on my side. She wasn't. She just shook her head. Disappointed. Like I had failed them. And that's when my mother said the words that would follow me for years. If you walk away from this family, don't come back. I should have left then. On my own terms. With my dignity. With something still intact. But I didn't. Because what happened next was worse. The moment didn't explode. It stretched. Like time itself was trying to give me one last chance to take it back. To apologize. To shrink. To become who they needed me to be again. I could feel it in the way my mother stood there, waiting. In the way Rachel leaned against the counter, arms crossed, confident. Certain. They had seen this version of me before. The one that resisted for a moment, then folded. The one that said no, and then immediately corrected herself. The one that always came back. But this time. Something was different. I'm not taking the loan. My voice was quiet. But it didn't shake. Silence. Then a laugh. Short. Sharp. Disbelieving. Rachel. Wow, she said, tilting her head slightly. You're serious? I've done enough, I replied. I can't do this. My mother's expression changed. Not slowly. Not subtly. It dropped. All softness gone. All warmth gone. What was left was something cold. Something I had never seen directed at me before. You can, she said. Not asking. Telling. I won't. That was it. That was the line. The one I didn't even know I had, until I crossed it. Everything after that happened fast. Too fast to process in the moment. Too fast to stop. My mother slammed her hand on the table. The sound cracked through the room like something breaking. After everything we've done for you. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it was unreal. What you've done for me. Rachel pushed herself off the counter. Stepped closer. You live because of this family. No, I said, my voice rising now, something raw finally surfacing. I survived because of me. That hit something. I saw it. The shift. The moment this stopped being about money and started being about control. My mother stepped closer. Close enough that I could see every line in her face. Every ounce of disappointment. Of anger. "You've changed." "No," I whispered. "I just finally see things clearly." That's when she did it. She turned away from me. Walked down the hallway. Opened my bedroom door. At first, I didn't understand. Not fully. Not yet. Rachel followed her. I stood frozen. Heart pounding. A strange, quiet dread settling into my chest. Then I heard it. Drawers opening. Closet doors sliding. Hangers scraping. "No," I muttered under my breath. I walked toward the hallway. Slowly. Like if I moved too fast, it would become real. By the time I reached the doorway, my life was already being taken apart. My mother stood at my dresser, pulling clothes out in handfuls. Not folding. Not caring. Just, removing. Rachel grabbed things from the closet, tossing them behind her. Shoes. Boxes. Memories. Everything reduced to objects. "What are you doing?" I asked. But my voice sounded far away. Even to me. My mother didn't look at me. "If you're not part of this family," she said flatly, "you don't live under this roof." My chest tightened. "You can't be serious." That's when she turned. And I realized. She wasn't angry anymore. She was done. "Get your things," she said. "Whatever you can carry." Rachel picked up a black trash bag. Threw it toward me. It landed at my feet. Crinkling. Empty. Waiting. "Don't make this harder than it has to be," Rachel added. Like she was doing me a favor. I didn't move. I couldn't. Because some part of me still believed. This wasn't real. That someone would stop it. That someone would say this had gone too far. No one did. Minutes passed. Or maybe seconds. I don't know. Time didn't feel normal anymore. Eventually. My body moved before my mind caught up. I picked up the bag. Started grabbing things. Random things. Shirts. A jacket. A pair of shoes. Not because I chose them. Because they were there. Everything important. Stayed behind. Photos. Letters. Pieces of my life that didn't fit into a bag. Or into their version of me anymore. I kept waiting for my father. Waiting for his voice from the living room. For him to walk in and stop this. To say this had gone too far. To choose me. He never came. And that hurt more than anything else. By the time I tied the bag shut, my hands were shaking. Not violently. Just enough to remind me. This was real. I walked past them. Down the hallway. Through the living room. Toward the front door. Each step felt heavier. Like I was leaving something behind with every movement. Something I couldn't take with me. I stopped at the door. Just for a second. Just long enough to hope. "Don't come back." My mother's voice. From behind me. Final. I didn't turn around. Because I knew. If I did, I might not leave. So I opened the door. And stepped out. The air hit me instantly. Cold. Sharp. Unforgiving. And then. The door slammed shut behind me. That sound stayed with me longer than anything else. I stood there for a moment. Just staring at the door. At the place that had been my home. My entire world. Waiting. Still waiting. For it to open. It didn't. So I walked. I didn't have a plan. Didn't have a destination. Didn't even have a clear thought. Just, movement. Step after step. Street after street. The sky darkened. The temperature dropped. And the reality of what had just happened started to settle in. I had nowhere to go. No backup. No savings that hadn't already been drained trying to help them. No friends close enough to call at that hour. No safety net. Just me. And a trash bag. I ended up downtown. I don't remember how. My legs just carried me there. The streets were louder there. Brighter. But somehow, more isolating. People passed me. Fast. Focused. Unaware. Or maybe unwilling. I found a spot near a streetlight. Sat down. Pulled my jacket tighter around me. And finally stopped moving. That's when it hit me. All at once. Not just what happened. But what it meant. I wasn't going back. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Not ever. And for the first time in my life, I felt something I had never truly felt before. Alone. The kind of alone that doesn't just sit beside you. It wraps around you. Presses into your chest. Makes it hard to breathe. Tears came. Quiet at first. Then harder. Then uncontrollable. But no one stopped. No one asked. No one noticed. And that was the moment something inside me began to change. Because sitting there. On that cold pavement. With nothing left. No identity. No family. No safety. I realized something terrifying. No one was coming to save me. Not my mother. Not my sister. Not my father. No one. And if I didn't figure out how to survive, I wouldn't. The rain started not long after. Soft at first. Then heavier. Soaking through my clothes. My hair. My skin. But I didn't move. Because I didn't have anywhere to go. And somewhere between the cold. The exhaustion. The heartbreak. A thought formed. Small. Quiet. But dangerous. If I survive this. My fingers tightened around the edge of the bag. I will never be this powerless again. The rain kept falling. The streetlight flickered. And the woman I used to be disappeared that night. The rain didn't stop. It just changed rhythm. From violent to steady. Like the night had settled into the idea of me being there. Like I had become part of it. I don't know how long I sat there. Long enough for my clothes to cling to my skin. Long enough for the cold to stop feeling sharp, and start feeling numb. Long enough for the crying to turn into silence. At some point, I realized something. If I stayed there much longer, I wasn't going to make it through the night. That thought didn't come with panic. It came with clarity. A quiet, almost detached understanding. Move. My body didn't want to. Every muscle felt heavy. Every thought slow. But something deeper pushed me. I stood up. My legs protested. My head spun. But I stayed on my feet. Step. Then another. I didn't know where I was going. Only that I couldn't stay there. The city looked different at night. Not the version you see through car windows or from inside warm buildings. This version was raw. Unfiltered. Indifferent. Neon lights flickered over empty storefronts. Cars passed without slowing. People moved in small clusters, avoiding eye contact. Everyone had somewhere to be. Somewhere safe. Except me. I walked until I saw it. A small building. Faded sign. Lights still on. A diner. It wasn't much. A few cars outside. Fogged windows. A neon open sign that buzzed softly. I hesitated. Not because I didn't want to go in. Because I didn't belong in there anymore. I looked down at myself. Soaked. Shivering. Holding a trash bag like it was the only thing tethering me to reality. But the cold behind me was worse than whatever waited inside. So I pushed the door open. A bell rang overhead. Soft. Almost cheerful. The warmth hit me instantly. Wrapped around me in a way that felt foreign, almost overwhelming. Conversations paused. Not loudly. Not dramatically. But enough. Enough for me to feel it. The looks. Quick. Subtle. Judging. Curious. Uncomfortable. I kept my head down. Walked to the far end of the counter. Saturday. The seat creaked under me. Loud in the quiet. For a moment, no one came over. And I almost got up. Almost left. Then a voice. Calm. Steady. What can I get you? I looked up. She was older. Late 50s, maybe early 60s. Hair pulled back. Face lined, but not hardened. Her name tag read. Marlene. I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. Because the truth was. I didn't have money. Not enough. Not for a meal. Not for anything that would justify being there. I started. Then stopped. Her eyes softened slightly. Not pity. Something else. Something quieter. Coffee's fine, she said gently. Like she was giving me permission. I nodded. She poured it without another word. Set the cup in front of me. The steam rose slowly. Curling into the air. I wrapped my hands around it. Not to drink. Just to feel something warm again. Minutes passed. Maybe more. I didn't notice the plate at first. It slid into view. Simple. Eggs. Toast. Something warm. I didn't order that, I said quietly. I know, Marlene replied. Already turning away. Something in my chest tightened. I can't pay for it, I added. She didn't stop walking. Didn't ask you to. That was it. No speech. No explanation. No conditions. Just, kindness. And it broke me. Not loudly. Not dramatically. But deeply. Because after everything that had just happened. After being thrown away by the people who were supposed to love me. A stranger. Saw me. I ate slowly. Not because I wanted to. Because my body needed to remember how. Every bite felt strange. Unreal. Like I was borrowing a life that didn't belong to me anymore. When I finished. I sat there. Not knowing what came next. Marlene came back. Refilled the coffee. You got somewhere to go? She asked. The question landed heavier than anything else that night. I shook my head. She studied me for a moment. Not judging. Just, thinking. Then she nodded slightly. Like she had made a decision. Shift ends in an hour, she said. Wait here. I didn't ask what she meant. Didn't question it. Because for the first time since the doors slammed behind me. Something felt possible. So I waited. Watched the clock. Watched the door. Watched people come and go. And slowly, the shaking in my hand started to ease. An hour later, Marlene untied her apron, grabbed her bag, and nodded toward the door. Come on. Outside, the rain had slowed. Just a light drizzle now. We walked to an old car parked near the curb. Paint faded. Interior worn. But it started. And right then, that was enough. I sat in the passenger seat, clutching my bag. Not asking questions. She didn't speak at first. Just drove. Streetlights passed in quiet rhythm. After a while, she glanced at me. Name, she asked. I hesitated. Like saying it might make everything real again. Claire, I said finally. She nodded. Marlene, she replied, though I already knew. We drove a little longer. Then turned into a quiet neighborhood. Small houses. Dim lights. Stillness. She pulled into a driveway. Cut the engine. This isn't a solution, she said. Just a start. I nodded. Because that was more than I had. Inside. Her home was simple. Clean. Warm. She handed me a towel. Pointed toward the bathroom. Get dry, she said. Then we'll figure out the rest. Figure out the rest. Those words echoed in my mind. Because for the first time, there was a rest to figure out. Not just survival. Not just getting through the night. Something more. I stood in the bathroom. Staring at my reflection. Wet hair. Red eyes. Hollow expression. I barely recognized myself. But beneath all of that, there was something new. Something small. But undeniable. A spark. Not hope. Not yet. But something close. And as I wrapped the towel around myself, one thought settled in. Clear. Sharp. Unshakable. This wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning of something else. Something they would never see coming. Morning came quietly. No thunder. No sudden shift. Just light, slipping through the curtains like it didn't want to disturb anything. For a moment, I didn't know where I was. The ceiling was unfamiliar. The air felt still. Safe. And then it came back. All of it. The door. The rain. The street. My chest tightened. But something was different this time. I wasn't outside. I turned my head slowly. The room was small. Neat. A chair in the corner. Folded clothes placed carefully on it. Clean clothes. For me. That realization sat heavier than anything else. Someone had thought about me. Prepared something for me. Without asking for anything in return. I sat up. My body ached. Deep. The kind of ache that doesn't come from movement, but from everything you've been carrying finally settling. For a second. I just sat there. Hands resting in my lap. Breathing. Because this moment, felt fragile. Like if I moved too fast, it might disappear. But it didn't. So I stood up. The clothes fit. Not perfectly. But close enough. When I stepped out into the hallway, I could smell coffee. That smell. Warm. Grounding. Real. I followed it. Marlene was already awake. Standing in the kitchen. Moving slowly. Deliberately. She didn't turn when I walked in. Sit, she said. Not cold. Not commanding. Just, certain. I sat. She placed a cup in front of me. Then another plate. Simple again. Toast. Eggs. I don't know how to thank you, I said. She shrugged. You don't. That answer caught me off guard. I mean it, I added. You didn't have to. No, she interrupted, finally turning to look at me. I didn't. There was no softness in her tone now. No cushioning. Just truth. And I won't keep doing it either, she continued. The words landed hard. But they didn't feel cruel. They felt grounding. It didn't scare me. It steadied me. Because for the first time, someone wasn't trying to control me. Or use me. Or define me. They were handing me something I had never really had before. Responsibility for my own life. What do I do? I asked. Marlene studied me for a moment. Long enough that I felt exposed. Then she said something that would stay with me forever. You stop waiting for someone to choose you, she said. And you start choosing yourself. Silence settled between us. But it wasn't empty. It was full. Because something inside me shifted. Not dramatically. Not all at once. But enough. Enough to understand that whatever came next was mine. That day didn't come with a miracle. No sudden opportunity. No life-changing phone call. It came with something harder. Reality. Marlene drove me back to the diner later that morning. This is where you start, she said. I looked at her. Confused. I'm not hiring you, she added quickly. Not yet. The word yet hit differently. You're going to sit, she continued. You're going to watch. You're going to learn. Learn what? I asked. How to stand on your own 2 feet again. That first day. I didn't work. I watched. I watched how she moved. How she handled people. How she stayed calm when things got busy. How she didn't let chaos control her. I watched how money flowed. Orders. Payments. Tips. Mistakes. Corrections. I watched how she carried herself. Not loud. Not flashy. But unshakable. And something clicked. This wasn't just a diner. It was control. It was structure. It was independence. And I didn't have any of that. Not yet. Days turned into a rhythm. Morning at the diner. Watching. Learning. Asking small questions. Afternoons. Searching. Job listings. Applications. Dead ends. Rejections came quickly. Some polite. Some not. Some didn't respond at all. And each one stung. Because every no felt like an echo of something deeper. You're not wanted. But this time, I didn't collapse under it. Because I had already survived the worst version of that feeling. So I kept going. 1 week passed. Then another. And then Marlene handed me an apron. Don't mess it up, she said. I started paying attention to everything. Not just at the diner. Money. Spending. Saving. Patterns. Opportunities. I asked questions. Listened more than I spoke. And slowly. Very slowly. I started to see something I hadn't seen before. Possibility. Not the kind that shows up all at once. The kind you build. Piece by piece. Shift by shift. Decision by decision. And somewhere along the way, without realizing it, I stopped being the woman who had been thrown out. And started becoming the woman Who would never be powerless again. And for the first time, I wasn't reacting to life. I was making a move. It worked. Not perfectly. Not smoothly. But it worked. And that was the moment everything shifted. Because success, even a small one, changes how you see yourself. And once that changes, you don't go back. I reinvested. Then again. Then again. Each move a little smarter. Each risk a little more calculated. I stopped thinking like someone trying to survive. And started thinking like someone building something. Years passed. Quietly. Relentlessly. No announcements. No applause. Just progress. And one day, I looked around. And realized something. I wasn't struggling anymore. I wasn't just stable. I was ahead. Way ahead. The apartment became a house. The house became something bigger. Not just in size. In meaning. Because everything in it came from me. And then, one afternoon, everything came full circle. I was in the living room. Sunlight cutting across the floor. Quiet. Controlled. Peaceful. The kind of peace you don't notice until you've lived without it. And then, the intercom buzzed. Sharp. Unexpected. I frowned. Didn't move at first. It buzzed again. I stood up. Walked slowly toward the panel. Who is it? I asked. Silence. For a second. Then a voice. Familiar. Too familiar. Claire. My chest tightened instantly. I knew that voice. Even after all those years. Rachel. I didn't respond. Not right away. My hand rested against the panel. Still. The silence stretched. Then another voice. Older. Thinner. Please, we just want to talk. My mother. And just like that. 10 years collapsed into a single moment. The door. The rain. The street. All of it came rushing back. I closed my eyes briefly. Breathed in. Slow. Controlled. Then I pressed the camera feed. And there they were. Standing outside my gate. Smaller. Not physically. But, in presence. The confidence they once carried. Gone. Replaced with something else. Desperation. Rachel looked different. Still put together. But strained. My mother. Looked older. Tired. For a moment. I just watched them. Because this was something I had imagined before. Not out of revenge. But out of curiosity. Then my mother stepped closer to the camera. We need help. Of course they did. I almost smiled. Help with what? I asked. A pause. Rachel spoke this time. We lost the house. The words hung in the air. Heavy. I said nothing. She's sick, Rachel added quickly, gesturing toward my mother. We've tried everything. I listened. But I didn't react. Because I had heard something like this before. Different situation. Same expectation. We don't have anywhere to go, my mother said. Her voice breaking slightly now. And there it was. The moment. The exact position I had once been in. Standing outside. With nothing. Asking for help. Except this time. I was on the other side of the gate. Silence stretched between us. Claire, Rachel's voice softened. We're family. The words landed. But they didn't carry the same weight anymore. Because family didn't look like what they did. Family didn't throw you into the street. Family didn't erase you when you said no. I looked at them through the screen. Really looked. Not at who they were. But at what they had done. And what it had turned me into. Stronger. Sharper. Unbreakable. I pressed the intercom again. You told me not to come back. Silence. You told me I wasn't your daughter anymore. My mother lowered her head slightly. That was a mistake, she said quietly. I shook my head. No, I replied. That was the truth. Another silence. Longer this time. Rachel stepped closer. We're asking for a chance, she said. I let that sit. Because chances are expensive. And they had already spent theirs. I looked around my home. At everything I had built. Every decision. Every sacrifice. Every night I chose to keep going. Then I looked back at the screen. At the people who once had power over me. And realized something. They didn't anymore. Not even a little. My finger hovered over the gate control. This was the moment. Not of revenge. But of truth.